I call to order the October 10th, 2022 Beechwood Board of Education meeting. Roll call.
Mrs. Berger?
Here.
Dr. Salmiano?
Here.
Mrs. Slate?
Here.
Ms. Stricker?
Here.
Ms. Sullivan?
Here. No recognition of guests tonight.
No recognition of guests.
Has anybody signed up to talk? Would anybody like to talk?
No, they have not.
Okay. We'll go on to the discussion and action agenda. Our first agenda topic, or only one, is Beechwood Phase 6A Pay Application 15. Anybody want to make a motion to
I'll
approve
make
that?
the motion to pay the Beechwood Phase 6A pay
Oh,
application.
you know what, before we start that,
Yeah.
I need a motion. We're going to amend the consent agenda to add 3 band trips over 100 miles. So I'd like to make a motion to, I'll make a motion to amend the consent agenda.
Second. All right, apologize for asking for that to be done, but Mr. Scott just handed me 3 trips. Better for you to go ahead and pre-approve them as opposed to on the backside. One is to Estill County because we're 3A. The regionals will be held in Estill County at the new stadium in Irvin. George Rogers Clark the next week, and then Indianapolis the next. So thank you for making that motion. Those will be added to item J in the consent agenda.
Okay, we have to take a vote on that?
When we put in the consent, we'll vote.
Oh, we'll vote it
When we
then,
put
okay.
in the consent.
Okay, so on to the discussion and action agenda. Mrs. Berger made a motion to approve Phase 6A Pay Application 15. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, just for clarification, because this is the payout to close 6B, which will initiate the last BG for the closeout from the state. This just gives us the ability to pay out the subs that have already finished, but we'll still be able to hold payment on anything that's existing. Right now, the HVAC is about the only item that's left out. The brick has been washed, which is why we were able to put the banners up on the one side, and then we have 2 blue ribbon banners for the opposite side. Those will go up in the next week as well. But that'll just give us the ability to start making payments to subs. But we want to make sure you guys understand anything that hasn't been done, we'll still be able to hold that payment.
Okay. That was my question.
Yeah. It's been too long, but we're right on that cusp of being completely finished
Right.
with 6A.
What else is left on 6A?
We have a couple items on the flooring, just a couple of touch-ups that they've been working on. And I think we're still waiting on the one panel in the one room from American Sound? Okay, well, American Sound still owes us a panel on the touch screen for the visual.
And did they touch up all the paint and everything, like up the stairway and all that?
I'll have to check. I mean, they say it's been punched, but I have not put eyes on the paint yet. The main thing that they're wanting to get paid is the mason out of that, because we have not made the final payment to the mason. When it's all completed, I will put that on as a notification item to be able to tell you guys it's been completely taken off the books. Any other questions? No. Okay.
Ready, Mrs. Berger?
Yes.
Dr. Salmiano?
Yes.
Mrs. Slate?
Yes.
Ms. Stricker?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan?
Yes. Move on to the consent agenda. I'd like to take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve and adopt the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, just a couple of things to point out. You do see, I mean, even though we're closing out A, you still see, we'll start the payments and for number 4 for 6B, which is the main project out front. We did have several abnormal number of leave without pays. That was with the DC trip. A lot of the parents that were wanting to go that we're not in official capacity. So that's the reason that is such an outlier. I know that we continue to have what seems like an emergency certification on the agenda. This one is actually for Maggie Bushman, Spanish teacher. She's in a program, but unlike the special ed program, they don't have the emergency clause. So she has to finish so many hours to move to provisional. But she's in that program. That is not a problem, and we're tickled to death to have her. So that is the outlier there. To inform the board, we have finalized a contract with a website company to redo the official website. You'll be we're more than happy for you guys to take a look at that before we go live. We have plans to go live January 1 after Christmas break. It's always good to switch after break, so that new website will roll out on January 1, and our goal was twofold. Number one, user-friendly. Number two, trim out some of the information that was on there because, for example, when you just type in supply lists, one of the first items that pulled up was one of the teachers that was back in the 80s. So
Oh my God.
it was great to do a comparison of supply lists, but that's not what we want parents to be, or our consumers to see on their first bullet. So it'll take the content of the website, trim it way down to just what's relevant today, and be a lot more user friendly. That's the goal.
What will the ongoing maintenance be? Is that part of the deal?
That is part of the contract.
For how
ongoing
long?
maintenance, ongoing training, and support. And it's a local guide that comes with great references and a really low cost in comparison to the other companies that we would outsource to.
Do we
So
pay an annual fee for that, or is it?
a $500 annual fee for website maintenance.
Like making updates during the year? That covers that?
Now, if he trains the 2 people in each building.
Okay.
If they need support, it's at a hourly rate, but it is only billed quarterly. So if we call and ask a question, it would be 15 minutes as opposed. The $500 covers the general update at the end of the year.
Okay.
And the calendar software, because we're putting a pretty neat calendar software on there that's really user friendly. So that's the payment on a yearly basis. The whole redesign was $4,000, which we couldn't touch that with any other company that we got a quote from. So that was by far the lowest cost. He come with great references from multiple different cities and schools and companies, and he happens to be local.
Okay, great.
Will they be separating out like elementary, high school
Separate out elementary, high school district.
district? Okay.
You're still gonna have the alumni search and hopefully improved. That needs to be.
Yep. Yeah, again, goal, simplify the content to where it's just not, because when you go up to do now and do the search, it actually does a Google search as opposed to just our website search. So we'll be able to redefine that to just be able to search our website. A lot more user-friendly and less content. Super excited about, that's been a kind of an ongoing thorn, so we're super excited about that internally. So that's a website contract, and then one more MOA for Thomas More University and some of our dual credit. And then we did have several surplus items, and I know it's an odd time to surplus, but with construction, we're continuing to have to refine that process. Any specific questions?
No.
Ready? Mrs. Berger?
Yes.
Dr. Savignano?
Yes.
Mrs. Sleet? Yes. Ms. Stricker?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan?
Yes. And on to the superintendent's report.
Okay, guys, I keep it kind of brief. I know we have a soccer game to get to. Girls soccer plays tonight and regional to play. Boys soccer plays tomorrow night. for reasonable play, but I do want to update you on some changes on the front building. So initially, whenever we were looking at how they were going to start, it was going to be from the foundations to steel. There has been a change. We're going to go from foundations and pour in the floor to exterior block, and then come in with steel. They're having trouble. The number one reason they're having trouble being able to fit all the supplies on campus to be able to do steel out of the gate. So they're going to put block and then be able to get to do block. So change. Right now, they've already put up the sidewall adjacent to the elementary. They're currently working on the back wall, which is directly, on this back side here by the restrooms. That'll go up first. Then they'll come in and finish the plumbing in the lower part. The plumbing in the upper part's already been done. Then they'll come back and pour the whole floor. That will happen sometime projecting next week. So within the next 2 weeks, the floor will go down. And then you're really gonna see block go up pretty quickly. So it's gonna look like a really big change very suddenly, but then it's gonna slow down again when we come back and do that steel, because now you won't see the steel when it goes in. So that's a big shift on what I told you a couple months ago. Just wanted to clarify. Main reason is they're having trouble figuring out how to get the steel in. So there is a chance that we will have to take part of the curb out. So if you're looking at the Tiger to the left, we're not sure the steel is going to be able to make that turn. So there is a chance we will have to take part of that curb and sidewalk out. And I know that's front lawn territory, but there are just some really big pieces of steel that we've got to get in. And we definitely can't swing out obviously any further than what we already are. So I don't want to freak anybody out if that happens, but there's a pretty good chance that that's going to be the case. Obviously anything that we tear out will be replaced as part of the project, and I've asked that if they tear out any of the sidewalk going up the side, that we tear it all out and replace it all so that it matches and looks the way we want it to on the opening of a new building. So those are the next two things that are going to happen with the project. Then, you know how it goes, it slows back down as we start moving towards, the roof and, some of the inside work.
And so they got that plumbing issue taken care of?
Plumbing issue is taken care of. If you look out, if you're walking out towards the elementary after the meeting and you look out the window and you look to the right, you now see a really large chute coming up out of the ground. That's the air vent to the new sewage pipe. Great shape. Now, another question when you look at that window you're gonna ask me is like, oh my gosh, are they gonna leave it like that? No, they're not gonna leave it like that. That'll be poured floor. And then they've got to pack in, after they pour the floor, they've got to pack in brick from the exit through the school into that little corridor and fire break and lay brick. So it is not in any way finished. So that's kind of the next update on the construction. And we're on a really good pace, knock on wood. Obviously, we haven't had much rain since we started this project. So again, we're not really putting it out for a lot of public consumption, but if we maintain the pace that we're on right now and have a decent winter, then we're looking at a potentially different timeline. So I've met with the principals, Mr. Vanover, the architect. We're already setting up meetings for February to finalize equipment in the labs, finalize placement and layouts. We're actually having some meetings this week. So all that stuff is going ahead and happening to be able to finalize ordering, because if that timeline changes, which again, we're not putting out, but if that timeline were to change, we can't be sitting waiting on equipment because of, delay in ordering. So that'll be on the project for the next 2 to 3 months. And by the time we finalize some of that in February, we should have a really good idea of how hard winter has hit us. If it hits us hard, You know, the wool worm is all black this year. It's not, you know, where I'm from, they would say that's not a great sign. But, you know, if it trends the way it's trended the last few years, we'll be in good shape. If anybody wants to peek at, you know, any of that, I mean, that's open for your all's privy. Really excited about, you know, some of the stuff that will be out in those labs for kids. It's going to be a good space.
Excellent.
All right, that's all I have for the sake of being concise for soccer. And I will say, I mean, I continue to say, I know we've had some shorter meetings, but right now, that construction project, making sure we're moving forward academically the way we want to be, that's kind of been our top priorities. Another thing that you can put on for your consumption, October 18th is the public release for testing data from the state. Also, that's the same date of ACT, correct? Yeah, so we'll be having ACT here, and again, thank you for allowing us to do that with the sophomores and any senior that hadn't met benchmark.
Seniors.
Yeah, we're doing all seniors this year because of COVID. Sophomores there in March. Thank you. Well, still thank you for paying for that in March. That's a really big bonus for us. I think if you're going to put so much accountability on that for juniors, then you know, exposing the sophomores ahead of time is great. So public release of data, there's nothing to tell you to worry about. We will not have a problem when that test data goes out. I can't go into specifics publicly because it's still embargoed, but that's not an area of concern for us on the 18th.
Good news.
Terrific.
Really good news.
I think it's going to be an area of concern for some places. So, that's all I have.
I will,
Any update on the capital campaign?
Capital campaign is still right where we were last time, right at $500,000 of promised funds. You know, again, we have a meeting coming up this week in Lexington and have a couple more scheduled. And again, you know, we know a couple of our bigger donors we just haven't touched base at the current time. I don't see a problem. You know, again, we go back to selling the seats in the auditorium. That's something that I think a lot of people will be excited about. It's about $250,000. That put us at $750. From there, I don't necessarily see a difficult avenue to get into 1.2, 1.5. I mean, after that, I just don't know. I don't know. But any little bit helps. And again, I want to reiterate over and over. I mean, some of the lab equipment that they're kind of looking at is you know, pretty fancy pieces of equipment. That is not anything that we have to have, but it's definitely an opportunity for some of our supporters to be involved in outfitting those labs at a more collegiate level.
So once you have a list of the equipment that we need, can you like put that in as part of the capital campaign, and maybe people can like donate directly to that type of equipment?
Stephanie's got one that's pretty swanky. I'll make sure she gets right on then for the biomed lab. Yes, we have those meetings scheduled to be able to kind of finalize, because we need that list as well to be able to start looking in February about when we need to order. Since we're talking, go ahead and give you the other two things that I probably should update you on anyway. We're meeting this week and next week on when to start the stadium entrance. That's going to be, you know, kind of an odd kind of break. It will take out about 8 parking spots down that row. Shouldn't affect our entry at all in the morning or in the afternoon. If it does, we'll take out 2 rows of parking. We still have enough spaces to be able to rearrange that. But what we're looking at is all the vendors to get us their projected timeline on completion for their part, so we can start building that out, exactly how many months that's going to take from start to finish. Obviously, if we start December 1, winter's going to cause some problems, but if it's only going to be a 5-month project, we may hold off and start the 1st of February to still finish up by the 1st of August. So as soon as we have those final dates of start and end projections, I'll be able to pass those along to the board. And again, be able to put those into a timeline for us to be able to monitor on progress. I mean, because that one's going to be a tough one for exterior issues. A good thing, band will be over, football will be over, and we'll start to move more and more up top with softball, baseball, and some of our spring sports.
But so what's that project that we're gaining, like handicap access and all of that on that?
Handicap access, and the big one that people don't realize is the drainage realignment. All the water pulls all the way off this parking lot, all the way down, and you see from like the turf, the problems on the turf, it really kind of center on this one corner. So we'll be able to redirect some of that water, which I know it's a pretty redirect. There's no doubt about that, but it is for redirect and improved water drainage, handicap access, Hall of Fame honorees, but the big one is the handicap and the drainage. Other aspect that we'll be running at the same time, so phase 2 out front, managing that, starting and managing the stadium entrance, starting and managing the gym and the locker rooms. Okay, so that's the other thing that we're meeting on over the next 2 weeks. Getting with those subs, projecting that out, looking at start to end time, and then starting to put that to a schedule around winter sports and what we can kind of stay around and not affect as much. But that one's going to be hard. This one's going to be difficult for outside kids entering in the morning from Kroger, activities. This one's going to be a hard time because it will impact that gym lobby, as well as when they start the commons. That will impact from a cleanliness standpoint of that hallway and dust. So there's going to be a lot of different pieces that we have to manage and kind of maintain movement, because what we can't have happen, right? Things that I'm trying and working with Brian on making sure we prevent. We can't have put all of our focus out front and that go 18 to 24 months, then have to come back to here, then have to come back up there. All of a sudden we're at 36 months and there's no excuse for that, right? So we've got to be able to maintain those other projects at the same time to be able to finish under that completion date.
Okay.
And then there'll be some ancillary items that we'll need to discuss moving forward. I know that you all really had hopes of press boxes, getting some of that fixed up at the same time. And bleachers are not in the project for the gym. I've made sure I've double-checked that and triple-checked that today. That was just one of those things that we had looked at whenever the money was kind of tight, that, okay, well, they're still working today, but I can tell you, and I think the high school would reiterate that those bleachers are on their last, one of these days they're just not going to work, right? And so then we're going to pull them out, and they're going to stay out all the time. So that's just kind of where we're at with that.
Can that be an item that can be covered for the capital campaign possibly, or?
We just have to be careful. We don't want to put anything out in the capital campaign that was redirect money from, I mean, we have.
But into the need, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
Yeah. I mean, I remember you all have tucked some money away to future construction that we weren't going to have to use. I mean, that's another item that we can discuss, but we're a little too far out to be able to have those conversations. Biggest thing right now is building those schedules out and being able to put them to paper and seeing what we're impacting and how we can impact everything that's going on here the least. There will be some impact. I mean, this is the part of the project, you know, that we knew when we got to would be an issue as far as some things might have to be moved. But, you know, getting to the end point, you know, was your all's goal. So I'll have a much better idea over the next month. Any other questions? I mean, that's about all we got right now. And obviously, if you ever want to look at specs or any of the details, we have plenty of pieces of paper that we can kind of walk through with you. The biomed, the new rendering for the biomed is out. It's a little off of what it'll actually, but it kind of gives you a concept of the full space. So that'll be the next one that we put out officially on a board. So I'll send that to you as well. All right.
Okay.
Go Lady Tigers.
Okay, I'll take a motion to make the agenda part of the official board minutes.
I'll make the motion to,
Yeah,
sorry.
No, go
I
ahead.
I can't hear over here. Approval of making the agenda part of the official board minutes.
I'll second.
Mrs. Berger?
Yes.
Dr. Savignano?
Yes.
Ms. Sleep?
Yes.
Ms. Stricker?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan?
Yep. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add? I'm really excited about the banners for the band. I think that is
that's
so
those are
awesome.
awesome.
Good job.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
Yeah, well, that was a lot of free billboard space there. And, you know, we had the ones for the athletics. It just seems, you know, like a
Yeah.
good
Yeah,
way to
absolutely.
highlight. And especially since we'll be losing a lot of that chain link, you know, that we put we put the windscreens up.
banners, yeah.
So it seemed like a good fit. And again, you know, I don't want to underrepresent the other side either, because I think those national or blue ribbon banners will look really good and balance it really well. So, yeah, thanks.
They look good.
It was up
Speak
there.
of them.
Anybody have anything else?
Do not.
Okay, then I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Mr. Kaiser, do you want this?
Yes, yes, yes.
Thanks.